Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are doing our roundup of the WWE Draft Night One. Also SmackDown in general. Really good show. Really good draft overall. Start to the draft. There were some picks in this draft that I liked. There were some draft picks that I did not like. But we're all here to round it up. Overall, I thought it was a really good night. I thought the draft was handled pretty well. All the guests were W's in my book, but we're gonna be covering, and even almost all of the matches I have no complaints with. So overall, it was a really fun show to watch, start to finish, and and I can't wait for Monday Night Raw for a 3-hour show. This is one of the rare Raws coming up on Monday where I'm actually looking forward for all of the hours of the show because they can invest a lot of time into matches and also draft picks as well. But Triple H started the show, the first round of the draft on SmackDown. I wasn't really expecting Triple H to announce draft picks, but it's always good to see Papa H. You know how we roll. And obviously, the first pick of the draft, to a surprise to nobody, not even people that don't watch wrestling, but Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa and Paul Heyman, they are all headed to SmackDown. I knew that Roman was going to stay on SmackDown. People tried to say he's going to Raw. I believe that shit. Roman stays on SmackDown, and I don't know why people were confused about the Usos in the draft edgeability, which I believe WWE posted on their Twitter and all their social medias. The Usos are not edgeable to be drafted until Monday, so I'm not quite sure why people were confused about the Usos. I guess they don't pay attention, but I mean, we were all expecting this. Solo and Paul, the two closest guys that still have a lot of faith in Roman, because you guys know where I'm going with this. I think Roman's about to pull the plug on the Usos being in the bloodline. So Solo and Paul Heyman, two guys that are believers in Roman Reigns, they're going with Roman to SmackDown first. And Raw's first pick, to the surprise of nobody, is Cody Rhodes. I know the first question that people are going to say is, will Cody Rhodes go after the World Heavyweight Championship? And my answer is, I hope not. I hope this is reserved for Seth Rollins. He absolutely deserves a world title now. And if it's going to be a second fiddle title, that gives even more incentive to me to put it on Seth Rollins. But that's a video for another time. Cody Rhodes going to Raw. Big star power. Biggest baby face in the WWE right now. Can't wait to see what he does on Raw. Next up was a surprise very early in the draft. I had Bianca going second overall or Raw's second overall draft pick. No, they say, you know what, Bianca, you're going to SmackDown. And overall, the first thing that came to my mind, literally when they announced this pick, was Rhea to Raw, obviously, but the championship exchange, because they did this in the past and it was one of the worst. You remember the Charlotte and Becky one? It was one of the worst segments I've literally seen as a wrestling fan. And I mean, I guess with Bianca and Rhea it could be less awkward than that one. But I don't like the idea of a championship exchange. I just rather them just Bianca walk in as SmackDown's champion and Rhea to just walk in as Raw's champion. Just to have a segment with a title exchange just doesn't sit right with me. But overall, the draft pick itself, Bianca to SmackDown, I love it. If Bianca wasn't a champion, I would absolutely be advocating her to go to SmackDown. And Bianca and Roman on the same show is OP as hell. And I really think that this draft pick is because Roman isn't going to be there every week. So they wanted the biggest women's star currently to be on the same brand, which I understand. Next up is a little bit of a surprise because I thought that Becky was going to slide in the draft. I thought this spot could have went to Imperium or something, but it's Becky Lynch to Raw. I had no problem with that. I had Becky going to SmackDown. However, it's fine that Becky is on Raw. 6-time women's champion. Won the main event of WrestleMania. Tag team champion. And Becky will get more cheers than boos no matter what. She is still over. She'll be over for the rest of her career and is a legend. So I think Becky going to Raw is very good. And then this probably means that Trish is going to be drafted to Raw as well. Next up, after the first round of the draft, the Usos and Sami got into a little jab. This was just a build up to their match that was going to come up later tonight. If the build wasn't already good enough, I like this little exchange. It was kind of random, but I do like the exchange, though. Next up, a little thing that I really liked was the NXT Performance Center really, like, cheering, or really the reaction to them getting drafted. This makes the draft so authentic and real, sort of like they do with the NFL and all across the other sports. To see, and especially NXT, like, I know we can't get all the main roster reactions to getting drafted, but the NXT stars really hits an important spot because, this is the biggest night of their lives for them. It's sort of like people getting drafted to the NFL. These people are busting their asses to get to the main roster. These people's dreams are going to the main roster. And to see their reactions is absolutely tier 1 content. I love that they did this. Next up, LA Knight versus Butch. When I first read the plans, I was like, oh my god, LA Knight versus Butch. And I thought Butch was going to win. I thought they were just going to continue LA Knight's slide. And I think LA Knight's going to Raw. And I was like, LA Knight's going to start his winning streak on Raw. But LA Knight winning in front of a crowd that really loved him. Shout out to, I don't know, shout out to Corpus Christi, Texas. They are LA Knight believers, and I love that. And LA Knight winning in a banger match, really, really just a perfect overall match. Probably my favorite of the night because LA Knight deserves this so much, and he deserves all of the support from the fans. Next up, RVD. He was rating off the second round of draft picks, and I gotta say, good to see RVD. Good to see him healthy. I mean, who doesn't want to see RVD on their TV screens? So, seeing this, it's really good. And speaking of the second round of draft picks, the Street Profits are moving from Raw to SmackDown. I am all of the way good with this. The Street Profits were one of those guys I was hoping would change brands. They did. And I still think that split is coming. I know a lot what people are going to say. But I do still think that split is coming. I think Montez Ford is ready to be a single star. And I think Angelo Dawkins is just as capable. These guys are well capable on their own to getting crowd reactions. And people are going to be like, oh, who's going to be the heel? I think Angelo Dawkins as a heel would not even be that bad. But I still think they'll be a tag team for a good while. But the Street Profits of SmackDown, that opens up a lot of match that we could see in the SmackDown men's division. And these next couple of draft picks that you're going to see with factions going to SmackDown is really going to add on to just how many opportunities the Street Profits could get. Next up, we've got Imperium to Raw. I called this one. Imperium to Raw was definitely going to happen. I called that from a mile away. Austin Theory is certainly going to go to SmackDown on Monday night. But Imperium to Raw, I love that. Imperium has done literally everything on SmackDown in the mid-card title scene, and it's time to do that on Raw. There's really no exclamation than that. But after that, we got Edge to SmackDown. I thought Edge was going to stay on Raw. I did not see Edge going to SmackDown, but one of the guys that helped SmackDown what it is today is on SmackDown, and I am shocked by that. They are so... And once I read off these draft picks here, and you guys probably already seen it, Edge is going to have a lot of matches that he could have, and this is going to open up a lot for him in the last year, I believe, of his career. So, I love this. Edge to SmackDown. It just feels right to see Edge on the blue brand. Next up, we got Matt Riddle on Raw. Nothing really to say here. I mean, I think Sami and KO are going to stay on Raw. So it's only right to have Matt Riddle stay with them because of the 6-man tag coming at Backlash. And I know that a lot of people are... I know that these roster changes go into effect the night after Backlash, but I still think that Matt Riddle is going to hang around Sami and KO. Next up, we had a little bit of a more interesting thing. A tag team match that wasn't advertised really. LWO versus Braun Strowman and Ricochet versus the Street Profits. And this was really a way to advertise the Street Profits, but Braun Strowman was diagnosed with a concussion according to several sources. And Braun Strowman came out and he looked like $1 million. I'm not really going to elaborate on that. I'm just really happy to see that Braun Strowman's all good. And about the match, it was fantastic. Like I said, all the matches delivered. And the Street Profits were the obvious winners because they can't lose their first match on SmackDown. Next up, they also announced Bad Bunny. Not a surprise. Bad Bunny's going to be on the SmackDown before Backlash, which the SmackDown before Backlash is in the same arena as Backlash, so it makes sense. Next up, Teddy Long, one of my favorite GMs of all time, was going to announce draft picks, and it's always good to see Teddy Long. I think this is like the third guest appearance that Teddy Long has made in like the last couple of years. So, I really, the more Teddy Long on our TV screens, the better. Next up is Bobby Lashley at SmackDown. I literally yelled yes when this was announced because Bobby Lashley deserves this. He was having no direction on Raw, and Bobby Lashley going to a different brand. This is one of those switches that just really helps out the wrestler. And hopefully on SmackDown, we see that Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale trophy just vanish. And just reset Bobby Lashley. I don't know if he's going to win at Backlash. I'm going to say no at the moment. But because, I think Theory and maybe even Bronson Reed will be drafted to SmackDown, so it wouldn't really matter brand-wise. But Bobby Lashley going to SmackDown is really, really awesome. Next up, we got Drew to Raw. This is another one that we could see coming. Drew was on SmackDown for a while. Drew needed this change to Raw, and hopefully we see Drew come to Raw as a heel, which a lot of people, including myself, are hoping for. Next up, we got a stacked draft pick. The OC drafted as a faction. AJ Styles is back on the blue brand, and this is something that I was really excited about. AJ Styles is back home on SmackDown. Mia Yim, she's underrated. She really elevates the women's division. And Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, when the OC are as a faction, that's a big deal. I think this is a big deal because as a faction on TV, the OC are enjoyable. Now, people may not like Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. They are still one of the better tag teams out there. And I think this is a big deal because you get Styles, who's a great singles competitor. You basically get a tag team in Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. And you get one of the most underrated women's wrestlers out there in Mia Yim. It's a awesome draft pick for SmackDown. Next up, we had Zelina versus Sonya Deville. Not only one way this was going to go. Zelina won via roll-up, which I was surprised by. I honestly don't know Zelina Vega's finisher. That doesn't matter. Zelina looked amazing per usual. And Rhea Ripley came out after Zelina won. And Zelina wasn't having any of it. She hit Rhea with a DDT. Zelina got away with the last laugh. And to be honest with you, we all know Rhea's winning, but I think the build to this match has been fantastic. I love just these little attacks by Zelina on Rhea, or Zelina countering Rhea's moves. It helps elevate Zelina. And even if she loses to Rhea, which I'm expecting to happen, Zelina's still going to come out of this looking top notch, which I really enjoy. Next up, we got the moment. Not only AJ Styles is back, but we got the complete OC on our TV screens. And a lot of people alluded to Michael Cole, and I do agree that Michael Cole made it sound like AJ Styles was just not injured at all. And I do think that the crowd reaction was not piped in well on TV. Because everyone that I spoke to that was there, they said the pop was huge, which I truly believe, because that crowd was good, and there's no way they wouldn't have ignored AJ Styles like that. So, I think like I said before, the OC on TV together is good shit. And, but the Viking Raiders came out, which, I wasn't really expecting the Viking Raiders to come out to interrupt the OC, but they did. And the OC handled their business. Styles said this is just the beginning. Really just perfect cut edge stuff. And, I love this, especially for Mia Yim, who, has been in random tag team matches over the last couple of weeks. It's good to see her. It's good to see that this is also going to give Mia Yim much more good TV time, give Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson TV time. There's just so many benefits to the OC being back and Styles being back. Next up, Shawn Michaels was going to announce the next set of draft picks with JBL, which this next set of draft picks is going to get very intense. But when I saw Shawn Michaels, I was like, yeah, we're gonna get at least one NXT call up. But wait till you hear this. Well, next up is probably the biggest, at least to me, this is the biggest deal of a draft pick. Damage Control are on Monday Night Raw no more. They're going to SmackDown. And I'm disappointed by this. I mean, maybe a little bit because I'm going to 2 Monday Night Raws in May. So I won't be getting Damage Control content from there. But overall, Damage Control to SmackDown is good and all. But I want to like them to remain on Raw because Bianca Belair is on SmackDown. And we've seen a million things happen with Bianca and Damage Control. I just wish they weren't drafted together in general. But damn it, it's a new era. I know a lot of people, including me, are a little bit of excited to see Damage Control just on a different color-coded brand. But to be honest with you, I don't like the overall pick to SmackDown. If they put Damage Control in a rivalry with Bianca again, I'm gonna be mad. But honestly, I can't complain about anything that's involving Damage Control. So I'm happy for them. I do think the breakup is coming. I mean, the breakup is obviously coming in the calendar year of 2023. I just don't know when. Next up, we've got a shocker. When Shawn Michaels said he was gonna be sad about this pick, I was totally expecting Roxanne Perez to be the first draft pick from NXT. It made a lot of sense. She doesn't have a title. She lost her chance to regain it back. But no, we've got champions. Alba Fire, who has been overdue for a call-up for a while, and Isla Dawn. The NXT Women's Tag Team Champions are going to the main roster, and oh my goodness, I cannot wait. And I love this decision so much, and I understand it now. This is a perfect pick because of not only the NXT Women's Tag Team division, it adds a huge statement tag team, but they're going to go on SmackDown, who needs a lot of help as well. So that is a big thing. And seeing Isla Dawn on the main roster is going to be trippy as hell, but she absolutely deserves it. And this is going to be awesome. Next up, when they said Shawn Michaels was going to lose his smile twice, I was like, okay, this has got to be Roxanne. This has got to be Roxanne Perez. No, it's the NXT Women's Champion, Indy Hartwell. And I was like, what? I think Indy's injured right now. I think that she'll be out for a little bit. And on Tuesday on NXT, I believe she's going to vacate that NXT Women's Championship. But Indy deserves this. And Indy has been main roster ready for a while now. She has been one of the staples of NXT when it comes to how big she is. And I cannot wait to see Indy on the main roster. I mean, there's so many big matchups that I want to see with Indy. And this is very exciting. Next up, we got a couple of matches announced for next week's SmackDown. Shinsuke vs. Karrion Kross. I thought this could have maybe been added to the Backlash card, but I'm low-key happy that they're doing this on SmackDown. And next up is the OC versus the Viking Raiders. It's just a little prep for the OC, who are totally going to win this. It's a mid-match, to be honest. And next up, we're going to get an outlook on the rosters. Actually, no. I almost forgot one thing. And that Shinsuke is going to go to Raw. This is surprising. I had Shinsuke going to SmackDown, but Shinsuke on Raw is really, really good. And like I said, with Shinsuke versus Karrion Kross facing off next week, going to Raw, Shinsuke's got a complete new reset. We will see a brand new person rival with Shinsuke. Can't wait to see how that unfolds. Anyways, let's look at the rosters on SmackDown. And the reason why SmackDown's roster is loaded is because of factions. Plain and simple. Damage Control, the OC, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, the Street Profits, the Bloodline. There's only a couple of people on here that aren't on a faction, even though those people are Edge and Bobby Lashley and Bianca. But off the first line of SmackDown, I cannot wait to see what happens on SmackDown. And Raw is a much more smaller, though we got a lot of international people on here. Gunther, Drew, Becky, Cody headlining, Indy Hartwell. The Miz was a random draft pick. I mean, there's not. I mean, I'm happy for The Miz. He's underrated. Staying on Raw, that's fine. We get more Miz TV segments. But, I think the second night of the draft for Raw, or when we get to Raw this Monday, Raw's going to be on a steamroll, I feel like. Next up, we still got one more thing. KO and Sami versus the Usos. One of the biggest WrestleMania rematches in a long time for the tag team titles. It wasn't as good as the first match. It was still an instant classic. And Matt Riddle, when Solo was about to play the interference game again, Matt Riddle said, hell no. He came in, attacked Solo, and that allowed Sami and KO to pin the Usos to retain the tag team titles. I called it. People thought the Usos were going to win. I was sticking it by it. Even though we got a Saudi pay-per-view, they are not going to take the titles off of Sami and KO. Not after the crowd reaction. Not after all this. And they didn't. And the ending of SmackDown was perfect. I mean, you can clearly tell the Usos know that they are done for. That this is their last legs with Roman Reigns. And like I said, I think something's gonna happen at Backlash. I don't think they're gonna do it on a Raw and SmackDown. And if this 6-man tag is gonna be the main event of the show, then you definitely know something's gonna go down after. And it's not gonna be good for the Usos. I'm just gonna say that. Next up, we got similar news from today, and Apollo Crews is back on the main roster. I was expecting this, and I think just the way they were booking Apollo Crews on NXT, they were like, "Hey, bud, you're gonna go up to the main roster," and I don't mind this. People are calling Apollo Crews mid, I guess, but this dude is a great mid card champion material. Apollo Crews has got a great move set. His return to NXT was met positively, and he had a lot of great stuff go from in NXT. I don't think it was unrealistic for him to win the NXT title over Braun Breaker or Mello, but I think, honestly, this is a good depth draft pick, and a lot of people complaining don't understand depth, which I really don't understand. It's the IWC. They'll complain about anything. I like Apollo Crews going to Raw. Next up, we got Zoe Stark on the main roster. Thank God. She deserves this. She has one of my favorite finishers, by the way, in NXT. And Zoe Stark has been overdue for a long time. She has been in NXT forever. And her going to Raw will allow her to create a lot of stuff. And she's a good heel, so I think she's going to get a lot of good rivalries quick. The one thing you obviously got to point out is that her mic work needs to... I don't think they're going to have her go on the mic, really. I think they're just going to have Zoe Stark straight up wrestle. And next up, JD McDonough. This one I am shocked by. I thought JD was going to remain in NXT. I didn't expect him to be drafted. But the Irish Ace is on Raw. I cannot wait. And you already know what I want to see. I want to see JD versus Gunther in the next month, at least. JD McDonough is so underrated. This dude's going to create many great matches. And just to round out on my Twitter, as you guys can see, of all the draft picks, Dexter Lumis is going to Raw. Maximum Male Models stay on Raw, which is fine, I guess. That allows WWE to have more TV time for the Maximum Male Models Otis storyline. Candice LeRae remains on Raw, so it looks like Candice LeRae is going to be a single star, which thank God. And the Viking Raiders are on Raw, which is good. I like the Viking Raiders switching brands. Natalia's on Raw, which I called too. She's been on SmackDown forever. And Chelsea and Sonya on Raw, which I was not expecting. But I guess you got to trade. You got an NXT tag team in Isla Dawn and Alba Fire. You give Raw Chelsea and Sonya. Hit Row are still on SmackDown. Yeah. But, Lacey Evans heads to SmackDown as well. Once again, yeah. But that's pretty much a roundup of all the draft stuff. And by the way, this means that the Way is probably back. Because if Johnny Gargano gets drafted to SmackDown, I'm going to be so pissed off. But I don't think he will. I think this is a clear route that the Way is going to be back on our TV screens. And I love this plan so much. It's another faction, and I love factions. What else can I say? But I hope you guys enjoy this. It's a longer video than usual, but there was so much to talk about, and I'll see you guys in the next video.